Hi, I'm Aaron Tweeten, and today we're going to take a look at the settings for the new WordPress editor. When you first use Gutenberg or the new editor for WordPress 5.0 and onward, you'll notice an interface similar to what the classic editor gave you in the past. The major differences are this bar that runs across the top and then the settings sidebar on the right. So from the top toolbar up here, the first thing you can do is that you can add new blocks. And these are organized. You can search for a block, say if I want to add a paragraph block, that will show up. And then they're also organized by categories. And I've made videos on the different blocks available in the categories. You can check them out on my website. After that, you've got an undo and redo button that you can click. And then there's a content structure, which will basically give you a summary of the words, heading, paragraphs, and blocks. Let me add a couple of things in here. So I'm going to type in heading 1 and change that to a heading. And then type in here's some great content, and then I'm going to add this photo just for fun. Now I can go back up here to the content structure and you'll see it's showing that I've got 5 words, 1 heading, 1 paragraph, and 3 blocks. And what's cool is that it gives you a document outline. So you see the title, you see the heading. Of course, I've got it saying heading 1, but it's structured like that. And if I change, say if I change this to an H3, you'll see how it changes the outline. There's after that, there's a block navigation. And what that does is that just shows you the different, allows you to navigate to a specific block, and it has it listed by the block type. Now on the right, you'll see this indication saying whether or not it's been saved. So as I'm typing in something, like I'll start typing in and notice how it changed to save draft. And if I give it a couple of seconds, it usually will save on its own. There we go. Next, you got preview, and you've got the publish button. And then there's a gear icon here, and what this does is that it turns the settings sidebar on or off. So if I click that, notice how the sidebar disappears. And then at the very far right, there's this button with 3 dots that shows you more options. I kind of want to explain what those do. So here we have the top toolbar, and what this will do is it will place all of your tools up at the top of the screen. Let me just show you what the way Gutenberg normally handles blocks. So if I'm selecting this block, you see these tools up here, and then I select the next block and more tools, and then more tools like this. So if I go back up here and I turn this top toolbar on, what will happen is now as I select a block, I won't see the tools up here. I'll see it up at the top toolbar. So you might find that that's a little bit easier to work with. Again, the settings are still over on the side if you want, but it all depends on it's totally up to you. Let me turn that off. And then the next setting is the spotlight mode. And so I'll turn this on. And what this does is as I'm editing one block at a time, it will gray out the other content. I'm not exactly sure why you would want this, but maybe you would. I'm going to go back and turn that off. And then the very last view setting is the full screen mode. If I turn that on, what it does is it makes the WordPress admin menu completely disappear. So this is similar to the mode that was available in the classic editor. Now to exit the full screen mode, you'll need to go back over here and click these three dots and select or deselect the full screen mode. So there you can see it came back. Because when I first used this, I went over here to, I thought that this would take me out of the full screen mode, and actually what it does is it will take you back to the post archive in the WordPress dashboard. Let me get out of full screen mode. So those are the major settings to be aware of, and there's a few others that are bundled in here. One is the you can choose between the visual editor and the code editor. So I've changed to the code editor, and you can see what is you can see now that each block is contained by an HTML comment right here. And that is how the new editor knows which block type is being used. Now here's a funny thing. It's like watch what happens when I change this to something. I change this part that says WP colon. I'll change it to something else, and you'll see what happens. Now I'm going to exit the code editor, and now I get this warning message that says your site doesn't support the core something block, and so I'm going to go ahead and keep that as HTML, or actually, yeah, I think I've kind of messed it up. Anyway, that's the reason I'm showing you that is because that if you use the code editor in that way, you could actually break something. I probably wouldn't use that feature very much. So if you need to edit the actual HTML on your page, you probably should use the custom HTML block, which you can find if you go right here, custom HTML, and then you could type in whatever you want. For example, I'll type in hi, I'm a div, and so forth. And there's nothing really fancy there, but what that will do is it will wrap it inside a div tag. Also, inside the tools, you'll see keyboard shortcuts. And what that will do is display all the keyboard shortcuts. A lot of these are similar to what you see in other applications. For example, you got Command S or Control S if you're on a PC. And you'll see some other things. Here's one thing to keep in mind. Down here where it says select all text when typing, press again to select all blocks. I'm going to explain why you have to do that really quick, because the next tool here is it's this where it says copy all content. And what that will do is it will copy all of the blocks that you have selected. And the reason you need to do that is because if I press Command A, say I've got this block selected, I press Command A. Oh. All right, I press Command A here. what it's going to do is it's only going to grab the content that's inside that block. So I need to press Command A again, and now you see that I've selected everything, and you'll see over here where it says 4 blocks are selected. And if I want, I can duplicate it. I don't know why, but just decided to do that. Anyway, that's something to keep in mind. Then back over here, you have at the very bottom, you have options, and you have some general options. For example, tips, which will generally show up the first time that you use Gutenberg, the Gutenberg editor. You can also turn off some of these panels. So for example, if I don't want to see anything about comments, I can turn off discussion, and notice that it went away. And then there are some advanced panels that are off by default. Ooh, I don't know why it did that. Oh, there it is. So turning that on, now you can see there's a option for a custom field. I'm going to go back and actually turn that off because I don't want to see that. Anyway, those are the editor settings in the new Gutenberg editor for WordPress 5.0 and up. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, or you could check out my website, aaronsweeten.com, for more tips on WordPress. Thanks for watching.